Robert Louis Stevenson. The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Part 5. Incident at the Window. It happened on a Sunday, when Mr. Utterson was on his usual walk with Mr. Enfield. They went again through the small street. When they came to the door, both stopped and looked at it. "Well," said Enfield, "that story is finished at least. We will never see Mr. Hyde again." "I hope not," said Utterson. "Did I ever tell you that I once saw him and felt the same strong dislike?" "It was impossible to have one without the other," said Enfield. "And by the way, you must have thought I was a fool not to know that this was a back way to Dr. Jekyll's house. It was partly your fault that I found out, even when I did." "So you found out, did you?" said Utterson. "If that is true, we can go into the yard and look at the windows. To tell you the truth, I am worried about poor Jekyll. And even from outside, I feel that the presence of a friend could help him." The yard was very cool and a little wet. It was already a bit dark, although the sky high above was still bright with sunset. The middle of the three windows was half open. Sitting close to it and taking some fresh air, with a very sad face like an unhappy prisoner, Utterson saw Dr. Jekyll. "What? Jekyll?" he cried. "I hope you are better." "I feel very weak, Utterson," said the doctor sadly. "Very weak. It will not last long, thank God." "You stay inside too much," said the lawyer. "You should go out and get your blood moving like Mr. Enfield and me. This is my cousin, Mr. Enfield, Dr. Jekyll. Come now, take your hat and walk a little with us." "You are very kind," said the other with a sigh. "I would like that very much. But no, no, no. It is quite impossible. I dare not. But really, Utterson, I am very glad to see you. This is a great pleasure. I would invite you and Mr. Enfield inside, but the place is not suitable." "Well then," said the lawyer kindly, "the best thing we can do is stay here and talk with you from where we are." "That is exactly what I was going to suggest," said the doctor with a smile. But the words were hardly spoken when the smile disappeared from his face. It was replaced by such deep fear and despair that it froze the blood of the two men below. They saw it only for a moment because the window was suddenly shut. But that moment was enough. They turned and left the yard without a word. They walked through the small street in silence. Only when they reached a nearby main street, where there was still some life even on a Sunday, did Mr. Utterson finally turn and look at his companion. Both of them were pale, and there was the same horror in their eyes. "God forgive us. God forgive us," said Mr. Utterson. But Mr. Enfield only nodded very seriously and continued to walk in silence. The last night. Mr. Utterson was sitting by his fire one evening after dinner when he was surprised because Poole came to visit him. "Bless me, Poole, what brings you here?" he cried, and then he looked at him again. "What is wrong?" he added. "Is the doctor ill?" "Mr. Utterson," said the man, "something is wrong." "Sit down, and here is a glass of wine for you," said the lawyer. "Now take your time and tell me clearly what you want." "You know the doctor's habits, sir," replied Poole, "and how he shuts himself away. Well, he has shut himself again in the cabinet, and I don't like it, sir. I really don't like it. Mr. Utterson, sir, I am afraid." "Now, my good man," said the lawyer, "be clear. What are you afraid of?" "I have been afraid for about a week," said Poole, stubbornly not answering the question. "And I cannot bear it any longer." The man's appearance clearly showed that his words were true. His behavior was worse than before, and except for the moment when he first spoke about his fear, he did not once look the lawyer in the face. Even now he sat with the glass of wine still not touched on his knee, and his eyes looking at a corner of the floor. "I cannot bear it any longer," he repeated. "Come," said the lawyer. "I see you have a good reason, Poole. I see something is seriously wrong. Try to tell me what it is." "I think something bad has happened," said Poole in a rough voice. "Something bad?" cried the lawyer, quite frightened and also a little angry because of it. "What do you mean? What has happened?" "I do not dare to say, sir," was the answer. "But will you come with me and see for yourself?" Mr. Utterson's only answer was to stand up and take his hat and coat. But he noticed with surprise how much relief appeared on the butler's face, and also that the wine was still not touched when he put it down to follow him. It was a wild, cold night in March, with a pale moon lying in the sky as if the wind had pushed her, and thin, light clouds moving quickly. The wind made it hard to talk, and it made the face feel cold. The streets were also very empty of people. Mr. Utterson thought he had never seen that part of London so empty. He wished it was different. Never in his life had he wanted so much to see and touch other people. Because, even though he tried to stay calm, he felt a strong fear that something terrible would happen. When they reached the square, it was full of wind and dust, and the thin trees in the garden were hitting the railings. Poole, who had walked a few steps ahead the whole way, now stopped in the middle of the pavement, and although the weather was very cold, he took off his hat and wiped his forehead with a red handkerchief. But even though he had come in a hurry, this was not sweat from effort that he wiped away, but the wetness of strong fear, because his face was white and his voice, when he spoke, was rough and broken. "Well, sir," he said, "here we are, and I hope nothing is wrong." "Amen, Poole," said the lawyer. Then the servant knocked very carefully. The door was opened a little on the chain, and a voice asked from inside, "Is that you, Poole?" "It's all right," said Poole. "Open the door." When they entered the hall, it was brightly lit. The fire was burning strongly, and all the servants, men and women, were standing close together around the fireplace like a group of sheep. When they saw Mr. Utterson, the housemaid began to cry nervously, and the cook, shouting, "Bless God, it's Mr. Utterson," ran forward as if she wanted to hug him. What? Are you all here?" said the lawyer irritably. "This is very irregular, very improper. Your master would not be pleased." "They are all afraid," said Poole. There was complete silence after that. No one said anything. Only the maid raised her voice and cried loudly. "Be quiet," Poole said to her with a harsh voice that showed his own nerves were tense. And indeed, when the girl suddenly cried louder, they all jumped and turned towards the inner door with faces full of fear. "And now," continued the butler, speaking to the knife boy, "bring me a candle, and we will deal with this immediately." Then he asked Mr. Utterson to follow him, and he led the way to the back garden. "Now, sir," he said, "come as quietly as you can. I want you to listen, and I do not want you to be heard. And listen, sir, if by any chance he asks you to come in, do not go." Mr. Utterson's nerves shook at this unexpected ending, and he almost lost his balance. But he remembered his courage and followed the butler into the laboratory building, through the surgical theater, with its boxes and bottles, to the bottom of the stairs. Here Poole showed him to stand on one side and listen, while he himself put down the candle and, making a strong effort to be brave, went up the steps and knocked with a slightly uncertain hand on the red door of the cabinet. "Mr. Utterson, sir, wants to see you," he called, and at the same time he again strongly signaled to the lawyer to listen carefully. A voice answered from inside. "Tell him I cannot see anyone," it said in a weak and complaining way. "Thank you, sir," said Poole, with a sound of something like victory in his voice, and picking up his candle, he led Mr. Utterson back across the yard and into the big kitchen, where the fire was out and beetles were running on the floor. "Sir," he said, looking directly into Mr. Utterson's eyes. "Was that my master's voice?" "It seems very changed," replied the lawyer, very pale, but looking back at him. "Changed? Well, yes, I think so," said the butler. "Have I worked in this man's house for 20 years and be mistaken about his voice? No, sir. The master has been killed. He was killed 8 days ago when we heard him cry out to God. And who is in there instead of him, and why he stays there, is something that cries to heaven, Mr. Utterson. This is a very strange story, Poole." "This is quite a wild story, my man," said Mr. Utterson, biting his finger. "If it were as you think, if Dr. Jekyll had been, well, murdered, what would make the murderer stay? That does not make sense. It is not reasonable." "Well, Mr. Utterson, you are not easy to convince, but I will do it," said Poole. "All this last week, you must understand, he, or it, whatever is living in that cabinet, has been crying day and night for some kind of medicine and cannot be satisfied. It was sometimes his habit, the master's I mean, to write his orders on a piece of paper and throw it on the stairs. This week we have had nothing else, nothing but papers, and a closed door, and even the meals are left there to be taken in when nobody is looking. Well, sir, every day, yes, and 2 or 3 times in one day, there have been orders and complaints, and I have been sent quickly to all the chemists in the town. Every time I brought the medicine back, there was another paper telling me to take it back, because it was not pure, and another order to a different shop. This drug is very badly needed, sir, for some reason." "Do you have any of these papers?" asked Mr. Utterson. Poole felt in his pocket and gave him a crumpled note, which the lawyer carefully examined near the candle. It said, "Dr. Jekyll presents his compliments to Messrs. Mall. He tells them that their last sample is impure and completely useless for his present purpose. In the year 18, Dr. J bought a fairly large amount from Messrs. M. He now asks them to search very carefully, and if any of the same quality is left, to send it to him at once. Money is not important. The importance of this to Dr. J can hardly be described." Up to this point, the letter was calm enough, but then suddenly the writer lost control. "For God's sake," he added, "find me some of the old." "This is a strange note," said Mr. Utterson, and then suddenly, "How do you have it open?" "The man at Maw's was very angry, sir, and he threw it back to me like it was nothing," said Poole. "This is clearly the doctor's handwriting, do you know?" asked the lawyer. "I thought it looked like it," said the servant, a bit unwillingly, and then, in a different voice, "But what does the handwriting matter?" he said. "I have seen him." "Seen him?" repeated Mr. Utterson. "Well?" "That's it," said Poole. "This is what happened. I suddenly came into the theater from the garden. It seems he had gone out to look for this drug or whatever it is, because the cabinet door was open, and he was there at the far end of the room searching among the crates. He looked up when I came in, gave a kind of cry, and ran quickly upstairs into the cabinet. I saw him only for a moment, but my hair stood up with fear. Sir, if that was my master, why did he have a mask on his face? If it was my master, why did he cry out like a rat and run away from me? I have served him for many years, and then—" The man stopped and passed his hand over his face.